From Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown, this is Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. TicketBash.com, where memories are made affordable and where you'll never pay a service fee. Sports Bash is also presented by Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service, keeping Long Island warm for over 18 years, serving their customers in Nassau and Suffolk with pride, honesty, and integrity. For more information, visit www.liboilers.com. Sports Bash is brought to you by the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Every customer is considered family at the Embassy Diner. Mention Sports Bash, get a free dessert with your meal. By Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles in Rockville Center, Long Island's go-to store for sports, entertainment, and political memorabilia since 1996. They're also available for charity auctions. Give Warren a call at 516-826-4000. And by the Marty Lyons Foundation, the official charity of Sports Bash Media. For more information, go to martylyonsfoundation.org. Stay tuned later in the show. We'll tell you about the Marty Lyons Foundation NFL Draft Party coming up in April. Hi again, everyone. I'm Peter Schwartz. A happy Wednesday to you. No show yesterday because of a prior commitment that I had that we'll talk about later on in the program. So a special Wednesday edition of Sports Bash. 516-465-3990 is the number to call. Make sure you're subscribing to Governor's Comedy Club podcast channel on YouTube and follow Sports Bash Media on X, Instagram, and Facebook. And a really exciting show today. Of course, we all know what tomorrow is. It is opening day for the Yankees and the Mets. The Yankees hosting the Brewers. The Mets are in Houston to face the Astros. Later in the show, we'll talk about the Mets with Mets broadcaster Pat McCarthy. We'll also have the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day. But right now, it is time to talk about the greatest franchise in all of professional sports. And I say that both with bias, and I say it with fact, with 27 world championships. And we want to welcome in, and I overdue to congratulate this young man, not so young anymore, but a good friend of mine. I've seen him grow from a high school student here on Long Island that aspired to get into broadcasting, went on to a brilliant career at Fordham at WFUV, and during this offseason named the official host of the Yankees post-game show on WFAN. He'll fill in again on play-by-play, and we're going to talk Yankees baseball now with my good friend Emmanuel Barbari. Emmanuel, it's Peter. How are you, sir?
Peter, it's great to see you. I appreciate that very kind introduction. Opening day tomorrow. It's so exciting, so I'm looking forward to it.
Before we get to the Yankees, and listen, our friendship is so important to me. I think you know that, and we go back a long way.
Yeah.
For what has happened to you in your career at such a rapid pace, has there been a pinch me moment for you yet in going from Fordham to working at WFAN to now being part of the Yankee broadcast? And you split last season with Justin Shackle, and then John Sterling came back for the end of the season and the playoffs. But the opportunity that you've had, and you've earned it 100%. Have you had that pinch me moment? Is every day a pinch me moment for you?
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly at the end. Every day has been the pinch me moment. I tried.
We're having some technical difficulties. Emmanuel's microphone is popping in and out. Let's see if we can get that fixed. Emmanuel, want to give it another shot?
You got me now?
There you go.
Perfect.
It's like a Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you said it perfectly. Every day has been the pinch me moment where you go back to, if you had to pick one, maybe September 2023 when I called play-by-play for the first time for the Yankees in Pittsburgh. John and Susan were off, and Justin and I shared the play-by-play duties, and it was like, wow. There's a major league game. It's not only a major league game that I'm calling, and I would be happy to call a major league game anywhere, but it's a team you grew up rooting for, right? It's the New York Yankees. It's as you said, the greatest franchise in the history of professional sports. So I guess that was the pinch me moment, but everything since then, when John retired in the middle of April last year, and it wasn't the originally scheduled road games I was going to do for him. The first game I called was Yankees Marlins in April at Yankee Stadium last year, and Juan Soto hit this rocket double down the right field line. Yankees actually lost the game, but it got pretty exciting there in the eighth inning. That was the first time I called play-by-play at Yankee Stadium. So sitting in that seat that I consider still to be, now Dave Sims' seat, but in that moment, I'm like, this is John's seat.
It'll always be John's seat. I think even Dave Sims and anybody who has that job going forward, it'll always be John Sterling's seat.
100%. So in that moment, I'm like, I'm sitting in John Sterling's seat. So that was a pinch me moment too. But you just try to appreciate it all. And I think each day you're fortunate enough to be there is that pinch me moment.
It's funny you said that about John Sterling's seat. I think I may have told you this story once before, but a number of years ago, I was filling in doing a Red Bulls soccer game at Giant Stadium. This is obviously, years ago when they were playing at Giant Stadium. And it was the first game I filled in, and I get into the booth at Giant Stadium, and I'm getting, accustomed to my, surroundings, and the microphone is there, and the instant replay machine that I have to use when the Red Bulls score a goal. And I'm sitting there, and then in walks in the guy in the back row who was like running the, the sound in the building and everything. And he said, and he introduces himself to me. I'm like, hi, I'm Peter. I'm filling in for Bob tonight. Bob Gallerstein, not Bob Shepard, but I'm going to get to Bob Shepard in just a second. So he says, no pressure on you, but that's Bob Shepard's microphone. So people don't remember Bob Shepard wasn't only the PA voice for the Yankees, he was the PA announcer for the Giants. So I was actually using Bob Shepard's Giants microphone to do PA for the Red Bulls.
Amazing. Like it's that feeling, right?
Yeah.
Where you're in shared, I don't even want to call it shared space. Like you're renting out that booth in that moment, and you're there temporarily, and you're trying to do it justice. Like you can never, if anybody tried to be John Sterling or any great broadcaster, you're doomed to fail. Like you can only do it your way. But you're in that, mystified air. And I think that's what made it so special. And, it'll be the same thing this year. He's filling for Dave Sims, who's one of the all-time greats. You're lucky enough to be in that spot, in that seat, and you try to do it the best you can, but also put your own spin on it.
So give me the most important thing that John Sterling taught you. I'm sure you picked his brain a lot over the last couple of years. Give me the one thing that John Sterling taught you that you will keep with you as long as you're involved with the Yankees now.
What's amazing about John is there are so many, great broadcasters. And Peter, I consider you're probably the first one that I picked. Hey, like talking about picking brains, you're probably the first person when I was a high school student.
Yeah.
Got so much great advice from
people.
Yeah,
at that sports camp at Chaminade High School.
Exactly. You were the first professional to come in and speak with me and many others in that room.
And look what he's done. He has soared so far past me on the pecking order of importance in New York sports media. How about that?
No. But I say that only because you gave such great advice then, and so many will give you these little pointers, and some will get really into the minutia of how to call a game or how to host the show, yada yada yada. John didn't do that. John, not that he didn't give advice, he gave great advice, but it was more to put your own stamp on it. Like, don't be afraid to be yourself and do it your way. And I think I really appreciated that, because whenever I listened to John, you heard authentically John Sterling. It's what made him one of the greats for so many years, still is one of the greats. So I think I really appreciated him putting me at ease. And also that, if you know John Sterling, him on the air is the same off the air. Like when he walked out of the booth and he would say, "Hello, Emmanuel," that was the same John Sterling that was on the air for so many years, calling great moments. So whenever he would say that, I felt like that validated his be yourself advice, because he just put me at ease, and I always appreciated that.
Oh, my hello from John Sterling was more like, "Hello, Peter."
Yeah, right. Yeah. And the first time he read the outro card at the end of the broadcast to tee me up for the post game, I think he slightly fumbled my name, and then each time afterwards he clarified how to pronounce my name. And the enunciation on it was so pristine, so stellar. Every time moving forward, it was Emmanuel Berbari. And he made sure he got every syllable, and I thought that was tremendous. I always remember that.
He is awesome. And so is Susan Waldman. And you obviously spent a a lot of time working with her over the last couple of years, and I know she was a delight for you to work with, and you're still going to get to work with her, doing the post-game show and filling in for Dave, and I can't imagine how important she has been for you.
Yeah, she has been, everything I could have imagined and then some, because you walk. It's one thing to, and not understating it, it's one thing to fill in that series in Pittsburgh in 2023. I'm sharing the booth with Justin. We're both doing play-by-play. I'm leaning on Justin. I'm learning from him, but we were very familiar with each other going in. So we weren't on.
You guys are part of the whole Fordham. Yeah. You're the whole Fordham WFAN group, the WFUV group.
Exactly. So I had a familiarity with him. It didn't take away from the aura of the entire situation. But when I went into spring training last year, and I'm doing my first game with Susan Waldman, and it's not only a 5 to 7 minute post game segment together, it's 9 innings together in the booth. You talk pinch me moments. That was certainly one of them. And then you get to do a ton of games throughout the year. She, for somebody, filling in and in my stage of my journey in my career, understanding that place and knowing she's this institution, trailblazer, legend. I don't think she could have been more accepting. Like there are a lot of ways it could have gone.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to assume the worst in people. You always assume the best, but I don't expect anything out of somebody who's accomplished that much in how they treat you and respect you. And she couldn't have been more welcoming and really made it easy for me. Like put me at ease in the way she just like always would give me things to laugh at and react to. And in that first spring training game, it felt seamless. And then on top of, we talk about John telling you to be yourself, Susan would give you little minute details that you could think about and legitimately get better at as a broadcaster. And that meant a lot to me because we do 5-6 games together, and then she would wait. She wouldn't do it every day, but she would wait, 5 games and then tell you something. And that little nugget would help you get that much better the next time you did a broadcast. So she's been as much a mentor to me as anything.
My guest is Emmanuel Barbari, who is the Yankees radio post-game host on WFAN, also the fill-in play-by-play announcer, and he'll be filling in during the course of the season for the Yankees' new full-time radio voice, Dave Sims, and he joins us here on Sports Bash. Okay, let's talk about the actual on-field product for the Yankees in 2025, and we knew at the end of last season that it was going to be a little bit of a different look. It was, I knew right from the start, Juan Soto was not going to come back, and the Yankees could fill some holes and get through, and they got Cody Bellinger, and they got Paul Goldschmidt, and they got Max Friedom in the rotation and everything like that. But the injuries that have mounted now for the Yankees heading into the season, with Garrett Cole going down, Luis Gil, we don't know when he is coming back. Giancarlo Stanton's on the shelf. Is anybody available for opening day tomorrow, Emmanuel?
There are actually people available,
okay,
Peter.
Good.
And there are a lot of them. They're going to field a full team. So with all the concern, I actually think this Yankee team can make do, and they can be very competitive. But a lot of it is dependent on the guys they've developed, like the guys they have pulled through that farm system and really nurtured. It's on them to take the next step this year. I was looking at it because Susan actually said something in the final spring training broadcast, or second to last broadcast. I think it was one of those. She said, I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think. And I thought that was an interesting way to frame it. And I agreed with it because the expectations have been lowered, which rarely ever happens with the Yankees, as you and I know. The last few years, it's World Series or bust, World Series or bust. The last time I could think where the expectations weren't as high, 2017 with that baby bomber core at the time. And the Yankees shattered those expectations, went to the ALCS Game 7, and ultimately fell short. And we all know what was going on in Houston, but they ultimately fell short. And since then,
if I had a trash can here, I would bang it right now.
Yeah, we need the sound effect. But now it's similar, where it's not labeled the baby bombers, but there are a lot of young players. 6 of the 9 players that start on opening day tomorrow for the Yankees, barring any change, they're going to be homegrown players. And 7 of the 9, including Bellinger, who's 29, and Jazz Chisholm in his first full year as a Yankee, he's 27. 7 of the 9 players are going to be under the age of 30. So there are a lot of young players on this team. And I think the Dominguez and Wellses and Volpes and Ben Rices of the world, how they do is how the Yankees do this year. And there is some beauty in that because they don't know exactly how it's going to go. But the Yankees will learn a lot about their young players this year. And if they're a playoff team, that bodes really well for the next few years because you have a lot of these guys coming back year after year after year.
You mentioned some of the young names. I'm going to throw another one at you. And he is so intriguing to me because I have followed him through the Yankees system, and now he's going to be the opening day leadoff hitter for the Yankees, and that's catcher Austin Wells. And he had an unbelievable spring, Emmanuel, with I think he finished with 5 home runs. It seemed like every day I was doing updates on the Fan, he was hitting another home run. I think there were a couple of games he might have had 2. But what are your thoughts on Austin Wells now, a chance to really have a great season, and the thought of him being the leadoff hitter?
First of all, I love the leadoff idea because a lot of people would wonder, oh, he's a catcher and he's not. It's not that he can't run, but there are guys who are really speedy on this team and you're not leading them off. But you have Aaron Judge batting second. I don't necessarily want the guy who's getting on base ahead of Aaron Judge running. I want the bat in Aaron Judge's hands, and I want somebody on base for Judge to drive in with a double.
By the way, I hate Aaron Judge batting second. And maybe I'm on an island by myself as a Yankee fan. I have never, ever liked Aaron Judge batting second. I mean, this guy should be, at the very, very least, batting third. And in a lot of cases, I could tell you he should be batting fourth. I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting to it, Emmanuel, but I just can't stand watching your best hitter, one of the best home run hitters in baseball, coming up second.
You know what's funny is that it doesn't take an old Yankee fan to say that, because I watched the '09 Yankees where Alex Rodriguez was hitting cleanup. He wasn't hitting second. He was hitting. Now it's a much different lineup. You had Teixeira there, you had Damon there, you had Jeter. You had a lot of guys there, but it's changed a lot in a short period of time. The analytics people would tell you get your best hitter.
I can't stand analytics.
Yeah, let's not get into that. But
that's a conversation for another show.
But long story short, I like Wells leading off because he's going to get on a lot, and the Yankees are extremely high on him. I think of all the guys we're talking about, the youth, Yankee people are probably the highest on Austin Wells because of what he could do behind the plate. Mm-hmm. And when he came up late in 2023 and then early last year when he became the guy, like if he was a split between Trevino and Wells took the mantle, and he was focusing a lot on his defense, and the jury was still out on him. Could he be an everyday defensive caliber major league catcher? And he's done that and then some. And now the bat has really come along where he was supposed to be offense first. He's not offense first. He actually is a really good defender. But middle of last year, he was a Yankee cleanup hitter, and he was tremendous at it. I think late last year, you can actually first full season at the big league level. He didn't play many full seasons in the minors. He was hurt a few times. So it was wear and tear end of last year. I think he could be an all-star catcher, and that's not going out on a limb. I think he'd very much be representing the American League as the starting all-star catcher this year. So I like Wells leading off. And then the bottom of the order, the bottom half, people want speed at a leadoff spot. It's going to be Wells and Judge, or maybe even Goldschmidt and Judge against left-hand hitting, left-hand pitching, rather. The bottom half is going to be Jazz, Dominguez, Volpe. They're going to be running the bases a lot this year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Let's talk about pitching, because obviously I mentioned before about, Cole's out for the whole season after Tommy John surgery. We don't know when Luis Gil will be back. That's obviously, concern. Clark Schmidt's been hurt this spring. Your thoughts on the rotation? To me, if the Yankees can get a lead and the starters can get to the 5th or 6th inning, the Yankees bullpen is going to be incredible this season. I think the whole key is if they can just get some serviceable performances out of the starters and get it deep enough that bullpen can take over and shut it down.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the bullpen in years past, I'm not saying we weren't optimistic. I think the Yankee fans are always optimistic about Brian Cashman's ability to build a bullpen. Even the staunchest Brian Cashman, hater would praise his ability to build a bullpen because he does it every single year. But there was more uncertainty in recent years. Who's that going to be? Who's going to be the hidden gem that steps up in the bullpen? This year, it's more certain. You got Williams, you got Weaver, you got Hill, Cruz, Mark Leiter Jr. I expect big things from in a full season as a Yankee. They just added Ryan Yarbrough to that mix. Loiska's coming back. Like, there are a lot of names out there in that Yankee bullpen. But the starters, I think it's realistic. Now, you don't have Garrett Cole. I'm not going to understate the loss of a future Hall of Famer and an ace in Garrett Cole. Max Fried is a frontline pitcher, and I think he's going to be really good as a ground ball pitcher in the American League East at Yankee Stadium as a lefty. Carlos Rodon, I expect more of last year than what he admitted everyone admitted was a disastrous first year in pinstripes. And then Marcus Stroman is a definition. You know what to expect. He keeps you in a baseball game. He's not going to be anything special, but 5 innings, 3 runs, 6 innings, 2. He's going to get the job done. Yeah. So getting a lead with Marcus Stroman on the mound isn't unrealistic. Will Warren, I think, is an X factor because now with the injuries to Cole and Heel, he's stepping in as a rookie, first full big league season. We'll see what we get there. Carlos Carrasco intrigues me because he's had a couple down years. He's 38 years old, made the team. People were saying he was done, but now he's reunited with Matt Blake, who he's very familiar with from his Cleveland days. So maybe he found something. His velocity's up again. If Carlos Carrasco is representative and maybe give you what a Stroman gives you, Yankees are going to have a lot of leads late in games, and we're not going to be thinking as much about they're missing Garrett Cole. They need more pitching help.
Emmanuel, really quick, because we have about a minute left to go. Your thoughts on where the Yankees finish? How far can they go?
I think how far they can go, I'll answer the second part first. How far they can go, they're determined by the trade deadline. So I don't think the current team, it certainly took a hit in World Series odds when you consider Cole out, Stanton out, Heel out, probably get Stanton and Heel back. We don't know when, though. It took some championship odd hit, but they're still the favorites, odds on in the American League if you look at betting. So trade deadline will determine the ultimate ceiling of the postseason. I think they're a playoff team as currently constituted. I think their floor is missing the playoffs, but that would be narrowly. So I'm looking at the floor being a wild card. Their ceiling is American League East champions once again. They have serious competition to do that. Boston's going to be really good this year. Baltimore, people are sleeping on in the American League East just because they didn't do anything in free agency, but they still have a lot of great young talent. Boston, Baltimore, until Tampa doesn't exist as a franchise, I cannot count out the Tampa Bay Rays even playing at Steinbrenner Field this year. It's going to be a competitive division, but the Yankees can win that division again. But I think minimum you're looking at a third wildcard situation.
Emmanuel, my friend, always a pleasure. Good luck this season with the Yankees in the radio booth, and I will see you at the ballpark.
Yeah, see you, Peter. Appreciate you having me. Good to see you.
Yankee broadcaster. Boy, that's so cool to say. A Yankee broadcaster. He was just a kid. I spoke to him at a broadcasting camp. Seems like a couple of years ago, and now he's a Yankee broadcaster. Emmanuel Berbari joining us here. When we come back, we're going to take a quick timeout because we're not going to forget about the Mets. When we come back on the program, we're going to talk to Mets broadcaster Pat McCarthy, because the Mets get underway tomorrow as well. We're coming back with Pat right after this. Hi, I'm Peter Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Embassy Diner.
Embassy Diner has been a beloved staple in the restaurant industry for over 50 years. And the great thing about it is when you walk through the door, you're not a customer, you are family. Every visit promises to be filled with warmth, love, and respect.
And here's an extra treat. If you mention Sports Bash during your visit, you enjoy a free dessert on the Embassy Diner.
Come on down to the Embassy Diner, where great food and great company are always on the menu.
Visit the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage.
Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles is the best place to find autographed entertainment and sports memorabilia. We guarantee the authenticity of each and every item in our shop to provide you with quality collectibles anytime you browse our inventory. Our memorabilia includes autographed photos, sports equipment, jerseys, hats, and other paraphernalia from current athletes and legendary sports stars. If you prefer the entertainment industry, we have signed posters, albums, and photographs from classic movie stars and today's celebrities. To give back to our community, we participate in fundraising auctions for local charities. Call us today to request a specific autograph, find a special gift for someone else, or schedule an event. Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles.
Welcome back to Sports Bash. I'm Peter Schwartz. 516-465-3990 is the number to call. My thanks again to Yankee broadcaster Emmanuel Berbari. And now we go from the Bronx over to Flushing. Actually, we're going to go to Houston because that's where the New York Mets open up their 2025 season tomorrow against the Astros. And we welcome in Mets broadcaster on Odyssey Mets Radio 880, Pat McCarthy. Pat, it's Peter. How are you?
I'm great, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Happy opening baseball season to you. I know baseball fans all over the world, well, at least all over North America. It's like a national holiday opening day, and I'm sure for you, not just as a baseball fan, but as a broadcaster. I mean, this is, aside from getting to call games in the World Series, it's all about opening day and the excitement that comes along with it.
Yeah, no question. There's a certain level of excitement and anticipation that comes with opening day, especially because we just played a month where, not for nothing, the games don't matter,
Right.
but you're just out there just waiting for opening day to get here. So now that it is, it's exciting. There's a lot of expectations around this opening day, obviously, and just ready to watch it all unfold.
Playing the role of Captain Obvious here, obviously, but a lot of the excitement around the Mets certainly revolves around their big offseason acquisition, and that was taking Juan Soto away from the Yankees across town. And it's not easy to see the Mets fans' excitement with this. I just saw online today that the Mets have sold out their allotment of season tickets for this year. I'm sure the memorabilia and merchandise sales are through the roof, and I think you can definitely say this was a good investment by Mets owner Steve Cohen.
No question. It was one of those investments that was, I don't know how you monetize it. I guess you can because there's actual money involved with it, but it was an investment that was going to pay for itself pretty quickly just because of the excitement that comes around it. And folks are going to flock into the team store to buy jerseys. They're going to go to the ticket office, I guess virtually now. There's no really walk up anymore. But either way, you bring in a guy like Juan Soto, it instantly makes your club better. It instantly makes the fan base energized. And then you pair that with the fact that this team had a really exciting run last season, that there was going to be a new level of excitement going into this season. It's just heightened because of the addition of Juan Soto.
Can you sense, and you were with the team in spring training down in Port St. Lucie, can you sense the effect of Soto on the rest of the team? And you just mentioned they had that great run to the NLCS before coming up short against the Dodgers. But could you feel the Juan Soto effect on the rest of the team?
I think you just feel that there's a new aura around this team right now. It's not a team that is kind of searching for an identity. The identity is there. It's a team that has the expectation of going to the playoffs every single season and contending in the playoffs every single season. It's hard to say that one person completely changes the outlook of a clubhouse because for the most part, this roster is very similar to what it was last year. And last year's roster came 2 games away from the World Series. So obviously, when Juan Soto walks into the room, heads turn, and people have an expectation that comes with that. So I don't know if you can say that the entire team takes a step forward individually because of Juan Soto being there, but as a collective unit, 1,000%.
I think also, and people can debate this when it comes to the Mets offseason, but while there was this excitement about Juan Soto coming back, I think there was not as equal amount of excitement. Maybe there was, depending on the Met fan we're talking about, but there was also the big sense of relief that Pete Alonso was back. And during the regular season, that feeling might have been different from Met fans because he did not have the greatest regular season, but it all changed on that one swing of the bat against the Brewers in the playoffs to get the Mets to the next round. So from your perspective, I don't know if one was more important than the other, Soto and Alonso, but to me, that the Alonso signing, I think, was almost a sense of relief by everybody around the Mets.
Yeah, and there's nobody out there that can tell you that the Mets aren't better with Pete Alonso in the middle of their lineup because he creates such an extra level of protection. And for me, until Pete Alonso signed with another team, I wasn't going to believe that he wasn't coming back.
Me too.
I thought there was a shot, no question, because there's always a shot. And there's not the same sense of, I don't want to say loyalty, because I think Pete is very loyal to the New York Mets, but when guys hit free agency, they earn the right to go out and sign wherever they want. And, that's the landscape of the game that we live in. But Pete wanted to be a Met. I think the Mets wanted Pete to be a Met. The fan base 1,000% wanted Pete to be a Met. So I think the big hurdle was getting Juan Soto into the clubhouse and signing him, re-signing Minaya, signing some of the other free agents like Frankie Montas and others. But bringing Pete Alonso back was just the ultimate way to cap off this offseason. So, Pete's going to get a chance to make Mets history, right? He has a chance now to break Straw's record and be the greatest home run hitter in Mets franchise history. I hope he does it because he's earned it. And I think he has represented the organization so well in his now decade with it. So I'm excited for it. I hope Pete's here for a long time because a successful Pete Alonso means a successful Mets season. There's no doubt about that. If Pete goes well, this team's going to go well. And you're right? Pete didn't have a great year last year. He didn't have a great year the year before by Pete's standards. But I have sensed that it's a much different Pete this season. I think he's going into it knowing that he has a little bit of a security blanket, right? Worst comes to worst, he makes $24 million next year. That's pretty good. He's making $30 million this season. So Pete's in a good spot. I'm excited to see what he's going to do.
Yeah, no question about it. I think, obviously, the relief part of it, the excitement part of it, I think Pete Alonso should never, ever have ever put on another uniform. I'm not even a Mets fan, and it would be very, very difficult to have seen him in another uniform other than the New York Mets. We're talking with Mets broadcaster Pat McCarthy, who is the pre- and post-game show host on Odyssey Mets Radio 880 and also fills in on play-by-play. Obviously, a huge part of the Mets is Francisco Lindor, and I think it's interesting in a year where the Mets are going to retire David Wright's number 5 during the course of the season, the former Mets captain. There's been a lot of talk of Francisco Lindor becoming the Mets captain. Your thoughts on Francisco, what he means to this team, and how good of a captain he would be if he is named the Mets captain?
Yeah, I think he would be a tremendous captain because he's a guy that posts up every single day, not just on the field, but in front of his locker, no matter what. Pre-game, post-game, no matter how well he's doing, how poor he's doing, Francisco Lindor is there. He answers questions. He represents himself well. He represents the New York Mets well. You could go in a million different directions with naming a captain for the Mets. You could name Brandon Nimmo the captain. You could name Francisco Lindor the captain. And I think both would be tremendous choices and represent the organization to the highest level. Francisco has done nothing except represent this organization well since he got here. So if the Mets decide to go in that direction, I think they will have made a tremendous choice. And I think we are just starting to see the best of Francisco Lindor. What he did last season was nothing short of spectacular. And imagine what his numbers would have been if he didn't get off to that unbelievably slow start.
Yeah.
Because for the first 3 weeks of the season, I mean, he'll be the one to tell you, he was dreadful.
Yeah.
But he still went out there every single day. He still stood in front of his locker every single day and answered every single question. So I have so much respect for Francisco. I have so much respect for the way he carries himself. And he is such a tremendous ambassador to the Mets organization and to Major League Baseball.
Is there a chance we could hear the news of him being captain before the start of the season?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that would, I mean, we're, 24 hours away? I think that would be a pretty fast turnaround.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm not privy to that type of information.
I just think it would be awesome if the season starts like he shows up in the clubhouse in Houston tomorrow and the C is on his jersey.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how they would go about it, honestly. Yeah. Right? Like David's talked about it a lot in his book that he was called into the office and approached about it, but then went around to everybody in the organization to make sure that they felt that he was worthy of that. So, I don't know how the Mets would approach it. I don't know if they would have done it at the beginning of spring training or they would do it at the beginning of opening day. It's a good question. I don't know. I would be shocked if it happened in the next 24 hours. But again, in the world we live in, nothing surprises me anymore. So, yeah, I mean, it could happen. Obviously, anything could happen in 24 hours.
Yeah, I'm all for it. As a sports fan, most importantly, I'm all for those kind of moments. We're talking to Pat McCarthy, Mets broadcaster here on Sports Bash. Let's talk about the Mets pitching staff because obviously when you look at this Mets team, obviously this lineup is really, really good, but some of the question marks come from the pitching staff. And you mentioned Sean Manaea re-signing, and obviously he's been banged up during the spring, and we're not sure what his status is going to be. And Kodai Senga, he returned in the playoffs last year, but we'll see how he comes back in the regular season this year. When you look at this Mets pitching staff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Kodai's the X factor. If Kodai's healthy and we get the Kodai that we got 2 years ago, this pitching staff becomes so much deeper. Sean, I don't think it's going to be long. I would be shocked if he doesn't throw a pitch in April, just because I think he's progressing in that way. Talking with Sean over the last couple of weeks, he feels good, and this injury kind of came at the best time because the last thing you want is a guy to go down with an oblique injury in the middle of June. So the fact that it came in the first week of March kind of gave him some buffer room. So I'm excited to see a full season of this new Sean Manaea because Sean's always been a a good pitcher. He became a great pitcher in the second half of last season, the way he was tinkering and the way he changed his delivery. So I'm excited to see Sean when he gets back. I hope he gets back in the near future because I think this is a guy that, had he been healthy, probably would have been the opening day starter for the Mets. I think that's how well respected he is in this organization and amongst his coaching staff. And then talking about opening day starters, I mean, this experiment with Clay Holmes right now is off to such a tremendous start.
Unbelievable. I think so many people mocked it, Pat, when it happened, but he has been outstanding.
Outstanding. And he came into camp ready to go. And, this is a guy that got to Port St. Lucie in the middle of January. So he basically had to establish residency when it was all said and done because he had been there for so long in camp. And he's put himself in a position to go out there and with his 4 career starts and his all-star appearances out of the back end of the bullpen, he's going to go start opening day tomorrow for the New York Mets. He is a great guy. He has a tremendous attitude. I think the fact that he took this opportunity and has run with it, and we talked about it at the top, Peter, right? Spring training numbers don't really matter, but what we saw beyond the numbers was nothing short of spectacular. He's going to have bumps. He's not going to be fantastic every time he goes out there. And I think that's what's going to allow Clay Holmes to be great because he now has that wiggle room. As a closer, if you give up a solo home run, your entire outing is done. You blew it.
Oh, I saw a lot of that last year.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. There's just so much more pressure now. And now he can go out there and be free, and a solo home run doesn't beat him. And he doesn't have to go out there and be perfect each and every pitch. For him, now it's going to be learning to pitch as a starter, not necessarily needing to strike everybody out, because the Mets will benefit from him going deep in games and getting guys out in 2 or 3 pitches, not necessarily having 7-pitch battles that lead to strikeouts. I'm really excited to see what transpires with this Clay Holmes situation because when the signing happened, my initial reaction was, all right, this could be fun. And then at the very least, they've got a decent back-end reliever to pair with Edwin Diaz. Now my expectation is I think he could be really special.
What's the chemistry like with you guys in the booth? Obviously, I mean, for Met fans, it's a special thing with the TV booth with Gary, Keith, and Ron, and now with you and Keith Rad and Howie Rose in the radio booth. I can only imagine how great the chemistry is between the 3 of you.
Oh, we are so beyond lucky, and it's not really just the 3 of us; it's really the 4 of us too. Because Chris Majkowski.
How could I forget? How could I forget Chris Majkowski?
The immortal one.
The immortal one, yes.
And folks know Madge. They don't necessarily know his voice, but obviously they know his presence in every single broadcast. And the 4 of us we are all cross-generational, which I think is the coolest thing about it. You've got Howie, who is a day one Mets fan since 1962, and you've got Madge, who is, has been a Mets fan his entire life, and then you've got Keith and myself, who are 32 and 30 respectively, and we get to interact with these guys every single day, and they are so beyond special. And I'd like to think that we keep Madge young because he has to deal with a couple of 30-year-olds, and same with Howie. Howie is so kind and so fun, and people ask me all the time, what is it like working with Howie Rose? And I said, the Howie that you hear on the air is the exact same person that we deal with every single day. Nothing changes. And that's the ultimate compliment that you can give to a broadcaster because he's fun, he's self-deprecating, he is a walking encyclopedia, and he just goes about his business in the most professional way. I've never met somebody that knows how to just build a moment the way that Howie builds it. And sometimes I just take a step back and just watch. And, Keith and I are so fortunate to learn from him every single day. And I think this Mets season is going to be so special that I hope Howie has a chance to call every single one of those big moments because listening back to some of those calls from last year, it was... Listen, would Keith and I would have loved to have been the one that delivered those calls, but we could never have done it the way that Howie did it. And whether that was Pete's home run, whether it was Lindor's home run against Atlanta, Lindor's grand slam against Philadelphia, how he captures every single moment. So we're so lucky to get a chance to work with him every single day. And then, with me and Keith, it's such a luxury to get to work with somebody every day that I truly consider to be one of my closest friends. Mm-hmm. And Keith and I didn't know each other before going into this, but now we spend a lot of time together. Our wives are friendly, mm-hmm. and we get a chance to hang out a lot. And my dad used to tell me that when he worked in the Mets booth, it was truly like going to work with your best friends every single day. And that's how I feel.
It's a great segue. You brought up your father, Tom McCarthy, who's one of the voices of the Philadelphia Phillies and a former Mets voice. As you mentioned, I have to ask, what was Thanksgiving dinner like in the McCarthy household after the Mets beat the Phillies in the playoffs?
Are you familiar with the separation of church and state? Because it's in all seriousness, we really do try and keep our work separate. It never works. Full disclosure, as much as we try, our wives, my mom, my siblings, everybody would tell you that no, that's not how that happens. But that was such an awesome gift to be able to experience that together. Not just the National League Division Series, but we got to experience London together. So even though we are on different sides of things, and obviously it went very well for the Mets, for us, it was so far beyond that, getting a chance to drive to work together every single day. I live 3 miles away from my parents. So, when the Mets and Phillies get a chance to play each other, my dad and I carpool, which is such a great time for us, because in season we don't really get that. We're both home during the day, which is nice, so I can pop over there if I want to go get my hair cut at my barber, and then I swing by my parents' house after. But other than that, my dad and I don't really spend a ton of time together during the season. So when we get opportunities like that, nothing better.
No question about it. Let me close with that. By the way, please send my regards to your father. I enjoyed many yucks in the press box with him over the years when he was with the Mets. I asked Emmanuel Barbari, the Yankees broadcaster, how far the Yankees could go this year. I'll end with the same question for you. How does the Mets season end?
Mets season, at the very minimum, it has to end with a playoff appearance, and I don't even know if that necessarily would be enough, because this is a team that is so much better than it was a season ago and came 2 games shy of a World Series. So that's the ceiling. The ceiling for this team is winning the World Series, and I think Steve Cohen said it, the floor is making the playoffs, because once you make the playoffs, anything can happen. We're a day before opening day, right? It's impossible to make any sort of prediction of how this season's going to unfold, because so many things can happen over 162 games. But this is a team that's primed to make a run, and as we have learned over the last 5 years, and especially over the last 3 years since this new playoff format has been implemented, hottest team going into the playoffs is going to make a run. And the teams that stay healthy and hit and pitch and timely opportunities are going to make a run to the World Series. And I think there's no question that this Mets team can do it.
Pat, I enjoyed this so much. Thank you for joining me. Best of luck to you, all the rest of the Mets broadcast crew, and this season, except for the games you play against the Yankees, and hope to see you out at the ballpark this year.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Peter. Thank you.
Thanks. Pat McCarthy, Mets broadcaster on Odyssey Mets Radio 880. Was that, Tony, you think that was a little unprofessional what I just did there?
What?
By saying good luck except for the games against the Yankees?
No, I think that's
how I
expected.
Feel.
Yes.
I mean, it's how I feel in my own house.
There you go.
There you go.
Fine.
So, okay, that's good. I just want to make sure I was not crossing any boundaries there, but here we go. So Pat McCarthy, great job by Pat here on the show. It's been a great baseball preview so far. Still more to come. When we come back, we're going to have the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day. We'll talk a little bit about St. John's season ending prematurely, because I haven't been on since then. We'll talk about the great New York Dragons press conference yesterday, where I got to do something I've never done in my life before, and that was to introduce a head coach as a general manager of a football team. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. My family and I were at the Knicks game last night. We'll talk about that as well. And also, I have no idea what this news is, but Tony Walker is going to break some Billy Joel news to me. I swear I have no idea what he's talking about. We'll find out when we come back right after this.
In 1982, the Marty Lyons Foundation began with a single heartfelt mission: to bring moments of joy and hope to critically ill children by granting wishes that make their dreams come true. Since that day, we have touched the lives of over 8,500 families, raising over $43 million to grant wishes that offer a beacon of light in their darkest times. These precious wishes cost an average of $6,700 each, and your support is crucial to our mission. Every donation, big or small, makes a difference. And with 76 cents of every dollar going directly to supporting our families, you can rest assured your support truly changes lives. The Marty Lyons Foundation operates 11 chapters in 14 states now, working tirelessly to reach as many children as we can. This dedication goes hand in hand with our commitment to transparency and accountability, earning us top ratings on Charity Navigator, Great Nonprofits, and Candid, which underscores our dedication to those we serve. The Marty Lyons Foundation grants wishes to children ages 3 to 17. And what really makes this foundation so special is our willingness to grant not only a first wish, but also consider a second wish to a child who continues to battle a life-threatening illness. We stand by these children, offering them hope and strength through the power of dreams, giving our children the courage to wish for more.
What's your purpose in life? Is your purpose in life to live in the big house and drive the nice car? No. Your purpose in this life is to make it a little bit better for those that follow and realize that we live for today to see a better tomorrow.
Visit MartyLyonsFoundation.org to learn more and get involved.
Welcome back to Sports Bash. I'm Peter Schwartz. 516-465-3990 is the number to call. I didn't plan it this way, but we come back from the break with Billy Joel's Angry Young Man. So I see no reason to wait any further before I get to everything else I have to get to by getting to some Billy Joel breaking news today. And again, I must have been under a rock. I don't know how I missed this.
Yeah, where you been?
Well, I've been kind of doing general manager duties today.
Oh, that thing.
Car repair stuff also. It's everything that goes on in my life during the day. I'm an open book with everything. But I did not know. I mean, I was on social media today. I mean, I had to do some posting for the Dragons, but somehow I missed this. So I am going to give you the floor here on Sports Bash to tell me what's going on with Billy Joel.
So it was actually supposed to happen last summer. I don't know why it didn't, but it's been announced this summer, HBO airing a 2-part documentary on Billy Joel's life.
Wow.
And there you go. There's the graphic there.
I'm looking up.
Supposedly, there will be, if you think you know Billy Joel's life, this documentary is going to be a revelation.
And that's going to be this summer?
This summer. I don't have the exact dates. I don't know if they announced it.
Subscribe to HBO again.
I guess you're going to. Well, they said, Max. Max is.
So it's the streaming part of HBO.
Correct.
All right. So that'll be worth it.
Go.
I'll get it, watch it, tape it, and then get rid of it.
There you go.
So there's really not much on HBO that I enjoy watching now anyway.
I'm with you. But this will be something we'll both enjoy.
I mean, I would hope also, and again, I have to try and find the right people to get hooked up with here, but I would imagine there'll be a showing of this, like a private showing, maybe a media, you and me.
That would be super.
Bring the missus and the missus.
I
How
know.
about that?
I know when they had the viewing party for his Live at Yankee Stadium concert, he actually showed up to it.
He did. I was at Live at Yankee Stadium.
Oh, you were there for that?
I was at the first of the two.
Very nice.
Yeah, back in, I guess, 1990.
Wow. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
1990.
Yeah.
And it's interesting with HBO, the connection between HBO and Billy Joel is long-standing because the first time I ever saw Billy Joel in concert was Nylon Curtain, 1982, which was the concert at the Coliseum that was taped for HBO live from Long Island.
Yep, one of his best shows.
And one of his best shows ever. And actually, if you ask Mike Del Giudice, one of his inspirations was that concert and that album.
Right.
Got Mike Del Giudice into Billy Joel, and the rest is they say history after that. But also at Billy and HBO was the concert from Russia. It was kind of like a concert documentary.
Oh, it's a great
from
documentary.
Russia. That was fantastic, right?
Yep, love that.
So great. That's good news. Thank you for breaking that. You're
I'm
on
here
the
for you.
program.
I
there
got
you go. That's why you are the highest paid podcast, television, radio, whatever you want to call it. Am I right about that? Yes.
If it's true, I feel bad for the rest of them. Wow.
Well, that was awesome. So this segment of Sports Bash is presented by Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service, keeping Long Island warm for over 18 years, serving their customers in Nassau and Suffolk with pride, honesty, and integrity. For more information, visit www.liboilers.com. Let me get to the Sports Bash Media poll question, because I want to knock that out of the ballpark here. Who will have the better regular season record in 2025? Yankees or Mets? And the as I take a sip of water here, early results in, because I posted it earlier today, the Mets are ahead like 54-46 in the polling. I think they're both going to be close. I still think, because of the level of play, I think the Yankees will have more wins in the regular season. That doesn't necessarily mean they'll go farther than the Mets in the playoffs, because I think the Yankees have some issues. But I think regular season-wise, I think the Yankees will clean up on some really bad American League teams. What do you think?
For what you just said, the Yankees have some issues. That's why I'm leaning more towards the Mets. But I mean, the Mets, they have some issues, but not like you guys do.
Oh.
So, but we're the Mets. That could change at any time, and the Mets seem to always find a way to get lost. So
yeah, well. Listen, if we can have a season that resembles anything to last year around here in New York, I mean, to have both the Yankees and the Mets get to the Final Four,
I'm happy with that.
And listen, it was great. It was awesome. It was a great October for baseball here in New York. So we knocked that out of the ballpark. Let me get to St. John's for a quick second. I don't want to come off as being a fraud St. John's fan. Maybe I am. But I obviously, Rick Pitino becoming the head coach last year re-energized a lot of people's feelings in the St. John's basketball program, and they just missed making the tournament last year. And this year, they had a remarkable regular season, 30 wins, I think only 4 losses, and they win the Big East title, and then they get to the NCAA tournament. They win the first round, but they lost on Saturday in the second round to Arkansas. Now, here's the question when it comes to sports. In any level, whether it's youth, high school, college, pro. What constitutes a good season? I think that depends on expectations also. And for St. John's, I think the expectation coming into the season, and again, full transparency here, I'm not by any means the basketball Bible. I mean, you can come to me with my thoughts on baseball and football and hockey and even maybe a little bit of soccer. But basketball, though I've always been a fan of basketball, it's not something that I consider myself a complete expert on. But I'm just going on general knowledge. Coming into the season, I think making the NCAA tournament was the goal for St. John's. Now, they far exceeded that with their regular season, winning the Big East. And I think when we talked about this on the show last week, how far can St. John's go? What do you think? Final Four, Elite Eight, Sweet 16. I think winning the first 2 rounds was an expectation. I think the expectation over the course of the season changed to where if you followed St. John's all year, the expectation was that they would be playing in the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. And that lies where the feeling by a lot of people is that it was a disappointing end of the season. Because remember, now with college sports, the landscape has changed. Because this group is only together for a season. Now they're going to lose a couple of key pieces to the NBA. And I already saw something. I didn't read the whole thing, but they did get a big recruit today, a transfer. I think it was from Arizona State. So Rick Pitino's already in the midst of improving the team. and getting the 25, 26 Red Storm, all set up. But I think generally speaking, after the regular season and the Big East, it was a disappointing finish. But this is the difference now in college basketball. You have 2 graduating seniors. You're not expecting that incoming, freshman from high school to be a factor, because now there's free agency every year in college basketball and college football too, and every college sport. You can go wherever the hell you want now, as long as someone's writing a bigger check because of NIL. So maybe St. John's is better next year. I don't know. But for the moment, I think the overall feeling, and it's my feeling too, that the ending to the season was extremely disappointing. So it was a tough way to see the season end, but hopefully St. John's can bounce back next year and go a little further. Staying on basketball. This is not something that happens in our household all day. We were very, very fortunate last night. We wound up going to the Knicks game. And there's a picture I took of a jam-packed Madison Square Garden last night. We enjoyed that game. Knicks beat up on the Mavericks. I forget what the final score was, but they blew them out, I think, by 15 or so. They were winning like by 20-something, and then it was garbage time, as Marv Albert used to say, and all the Scribinis came in. And the Mavericks caught up a little bit. But yeah, but here was the history last night. First time ever in Knicks history that 2 players had a triple-double. Karl Anthony Towns and Josh Hart both had triple-doubles. And with Josh Hart's triple-double, he broke Walt Clyde Frazier's franchise record for most triple-doubles in a season. So we never go to Knicks games. And the game we go to, we see all kinds of history last night. So that was a lot of fun, except for the fact that in the section we were sitting in, the rows were so close together, my knees are still hurting from rubbing up against the row. And listen, I've already got bad knees to begin with, and that was a little painful last night, but an absolute fun time last night at Madison Square Garden. Let me get to our big press conference yesterday. As the general manager of the Dragons, I was very excited to welcome Gerald Filardi to our organization as our head coach. We had a press conference at the Harp and Hound in Islip. We're looking at some pictures for some information on Coach Filardi, but we had a nice packed Harp and Hound yesterday. Doug Freeman, the owner, was there. Sean Wachter, the master of ceremonies, our director of operations. Marilyn Rich, our director of business development. My wife Cheryl was a huge assistance yesterday. Just a great day as we introduce our head coach. And now that's it for my football decisions. I said to Coach Filardi yesterday, you're the head coach. You're also the director of football operations. Everything now is in your hands. From the roster, we will collaborate on hiring an equipment manager. But now we're going to go to work. We're actually, excuse me, Coach Filardi. I made almost the whole show without the cough. We're getting better. It's getting there. It's getting there. And there's John Cronin, who was a former FOP. He's not a former friend. He was an FOP earlier. And there you see a League Dragons group shot that just passed by. I'm looking at the monitor that's on delay here in the studio, so I apologize if I'm off on my timing a little bit. But it was just a great day, and now Coach Filardi will begin putting the roster together. We're going to have tryouts next month. Tony, are you going to try out for the Dragons?
That would be a sight.
I could see you as a cover corner. What do you think?
Well, I'm thinking, although they don't
no
kick.
kicking.
There's no kicking.
No kicking.
Because that's my
That would
specialty.
have been your special. We have a throw off, not a kickoff. So can you bring it with the arm? How's the arm feeling these days?
No, if I had a fake arm like I have a fake leg, then I could really. That's the thing.
As a quarterback,
right? Exactly.
There you go. But we're very excited. A lot of players from Long Island have reached out, and here's speaking of Coach Filardi. We wanted to have him on the show today. Some league business was taking place today, so he couldn't do it. And I excused him from being on the show today because obviously the league business came first. But Coach Filardi is going to join us. Gerald Filardi will join us tomorrow on our regularly scheduled 1 o'clock Sports Bash tomorrow. We'll talk about putting this team together. And just like we made history last week when General Manager Sean Smith of the Ducks, so we had one general manager interviewing another, this might be the first time that the general manager of a sports team hosts a show and interviews the head coach that he just hired. I think that's more history that we're going to make here on the program tomorrow.
I think so. I think you're right.
Absolutely. So that will, oh, by the way, we'll also have Stump the Wiz tomorrow. Now, let's see what kind of level of difficulty, and we'll see if we can make his head spin a little bit tomorrow. So if you want to try and Stump the Wiz, DM your best sports trivia question to the Sports Bash Media X/Twitter or Facebook or Instagram page. If we pick your question and you Stump the Wiz, we'll give out a great prize. I'm thinking maybe tomorrow, because we're going to have Coach Filardi on the show, we will give away, if we pick your question and you Stump the Wiz, how about we give away not just tickets to a Dragons game this season, because I have a lot of power as the general manager, in case you didn't know. A lot of things I can call the shots on.
Nice.
If you send in your question and you Stump the Wiz tomorrow, here's what you get. A complimentary VIP field suite for a New York Dragons home game during the regular season. And that consists of 8 tickets in the suite, some food, some drinks. Wow. How about that? That's a pretty good prize, right?
That's a great
All you have to do is Stump the Wiz.
Wow.
And you're not eligible because I give you the question, so you can't answer it tomorrow. So, and I always forget, like, I said, Tony, do you know the answer to the question? He goes, yeah, I do. Yeah, because I give him the script beforehand. So I always forget about that. But that's all coming up on the program tomorrow. So that'll do it for this edition of Sports Bash, presented by Ticketbash.com and Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service. Thanks to my guests, Emmanuel Barbari and Pat McCarthy. Thanks to Tony Walker. Everyone here at Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown. Sports Bash presented by Ticketbash.com and Ryan Anthony's Heating Service, and sponsored by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, by Living Legends Memorabilia, and by the Marty Lyons Foundation. For our entire crew, I'm Peter Schwartz. Thanks for watching on this special day and time of Sports Bash. We're back tomorrow, regularly scheduled time, 1 o'clock. Have a great day, everyone. I'm going to the Islanders game tonight. Let's go, Islanders. After